Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Monday, July 24th, 2017 edition of VR News. Quick update before we jump into the news. You may see over there the Vive N Chill product sitting atop of my HTC Vive. Been putting that bugger through a battery of tests, almost concluded. Then we'll have a video up on that. Let's just say some interesting results. Now, there's two things I'm going to look at, not just to see if it can keep sweat at bay. The biggest interesting question for me, and that's mostly been answered, is what the heck does it do for foggy lenses? We'll find out. With that said, guys, let's jump right into VR news. Start with this first story, which is getting Lone Echo to run via Revive. I've had this question asked. It's something I haven't had a chance to look at yet, but will. In the meantime, like I said, a really good subreddit on the topic. Starts out with the Captain Obvious, making sure your Oculus runtime service is running, having the Oculus Store open, and of course, the Oculus Library service set to automatic. They also recommend turning off your asynchronous reprojection. That is a requirement, not an option, to get rid of jitter and judder type issues. Also, using Revive 1.1.9 or 1.1.10 eliminates the need to have to inject. Next up, if you are the type of person that takes in every single line of dialogue from Game of Thrones and then spends hours post-show trying to piece that together to get foreshadowing clues, well, this might be right down your alley. Ian Hamilton, he's essentially done the same thing with Ready Player One's first movie trailer. Now, we're not going to dive into that kind of detail here, nor do I want to, but what I did want to point out are just a couple of cool example GIFs that he captured from that trailer and just talk about them quickly. This first one, guys, a car chase scene, which I got to agree with Ian, looks absolutely amazing. And I grew up with Mad Max, Death Race, Dukes of Hazzard, Smokey and the Bandit, etc. Huge thumbs up just based on what little there is to see of that race so far. And then this second sequence showing the Oasis race participants in real life. Why this is so interesting, we've talked about this on the news show about cockpits, having the right controller for the right task in VR. Well, presumably what they're sitting in are cockpit chairs. You'll notice there's kind of a circular ring around the bottom of each chair. I'm guessing that facilitates all the tracking. So there's no wheel to grip, haptics, and proximity tracking, probably taking care of the rest. Either way, very cool. And our next story, we know that roughly 1 million PlayStation VRs have been sold to date, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 million Gear VRs. The Oculus Rift and HTC Vive numbers, a lot more mysterious, not for public consumption. But we do have some interesting words about this from a couple of executives from HTC. First up, VP Daniel O'Brien's statement, which reveals a lot more than the wording itself would suggest. So here's the statement. We actually met our targets. We thought we would sell in terms of volumes. We don't release our numbers publicly, but we're actually very happy with it. We've also started to really penetrate the non-game space and the enterprise space and all those use cases. That's why we came out with the tracker and opening up the ecosystem of things that could work with a tracked headset. So what that tells me is there has really been a concerted effort to not just keep this as gaming technology. Now, we know others have been driving the non-gaming aspects of VR, HTC Vive and Rift, but this is the first direct wording that it's also an initiative on HTC's part, something that they are actively pursuing. So that's good. I am, though, really curious, guys, what those numbers look like. Not just separately in order to compare them to the gaming numbers, but I would love to know overall. Of course, we've got our guess, but it would be neat to see the actual numbers. And then next up, VP for Global VR Content, Joel Breton. He had something interesting to say as well. For example, saying there's a lot of stuff in the oven that hasn't even been announced that we're salivating to see what the reaction is. I also loved his statement about the indie industry and have to agree. For the first year, yes, I've been hard on them from time to time, especially with regards to stuff like early access, even though I know some of my favorite games are early access games, and there are enough examples to show the positive examples of early access. Also a lot of negative, way more negative, but besides the point. The point they were making, or Joel rather, was that the industry basically took VR on its shoulders for the first year. Think about it, even movement, for example, smooth locomotion, so often referred to as onward style locomotion, a little game built like how so many of the classics in the past were built, basically a single person in their spare time. Very freaking cool. And next up, we have Nate Mitchell. Almost, sorta, kinda not really answering where the heck Rooms is for Oculus Rift. So there's an exchange, and I've got the link in the description below where he is asked exactly what the future is for Rooms. He says, we have some bigger sort of plans on the Rift side for the Rift community. There's some things that our team has been working on a while now that are really sort of the next evolution of where we think the Oculus platform on PC goes. Kind of dancing there, Nate. So they push, and he responds. So here's the caveat. Rooms may still come. I am talking about different things with regards to the vision for a metaverse-like experience on Oculus. Rooms may still come to Rift. That's not out of the question by any means, but I'm not sitting here today saying it's coming out in the next couple of months, so we haven't ruled that out. He goes on to talk some interesting stuff about VoIP and using Discord, all as alternative means for meeting up with buddies before going into a game, kind of like a waiting lobby for a game. So my 2 cents on that, guys, let's not hold our breath. It's probably not going to happen. I think they're going in a different direction with the PC-based headsets than they are with the mobile headsets. Not something we're likely going to see, at least not in this life cycle. That's my take on it. And our next story, guys, huge fan of Jamie Feltham. He is one of UploadVR's writers. He does some amazing stories, news-based. He's also got some pretty cool editorials, like this one where he discusses the 7 big questions for what is left of 2017 with regards to VR. Starting with, is Steam VR 2.0 coming, and what does it entail? Now, we know of the base station changes. That's been happening. We've got the Audio Deluxe head strap. We've got Knuckles controllers out there, but no word on when or if at all any of that is going to be brought together into some kind of bundle before the end of the year. My guess, no, and that's a pretty firm no. I believe a price drop is imminent, and we'll talk about that in a second, but in terms of bundling additional stuff in or rejigging its bundle offering, don't think it's going to happen. And then there's that next one. Will HTC cut Vive's price? Personally, I think so. I think it's not going to happen until the lead up to the holiday season. For the balance of the summer, they're going to hold pat. Then what's the latest on Oculus standalone headset? Well, this has been discussed for many months now. We're likely not going to get an update until October's Connect 4 conference. For that and some other Oculus news tidbits, completely agree. Are Microsoft's mixed reality headsets any good? All speculative until we get a chance to try them or some really good first-hand accounts on them. It's all just guessing. What role will Google's WorldSense headsets play? So we've got the upcoming HTC and Lenovo headsets. They're going to feature 6 degrees of freedom positional tracking, but there's been nothing game-wise, app-wise, or anything else to suggest they are going to be used for room scale type experiences, which has me really puzzled. What the hell are they going to use them for then? And then finally, will PlayStation VR solve its input issues? Now, my PlayStation VR input issue is simply I can't find my second Move controller, but that's on me, no one else. As for here, I'm hoping by the time, I do find that second controller, something comes along to improve the Move controllers. They're probably going to stick with it, but easily the weakest of the big three solutions. Would love to see something better. It's coming, but again, I don't think it's coming this PSVR life cycle. All right, guys, that is it for the news on this Monday. As always, guys, have a fantastic week. Cheers.